Students want to be seen, heard, and accepted, maximizing teacher-student relationships through a caring theory approach, through a study of myself, Tracy Chavis. Abstract. Career is a conversational process in which participants thread through academic knowledge, reactivate the past, reconstruct the present, and look to the future by talking with themselves, with figures across time and space. Career understands curriculum as a lived path, as well as an object in a course of study. Curriculum is not a thing to be studied, it is a path that is lived. The purpose of this self-career study is to reflect on how my past, present, and future experiences have molded me into the educator I am today. Let me ask you, think back to your time in school. Who was your favorite teacher? What makes this teacher stand out from all other teachers you had during your educational experience? Almost all individuals who decide to enter the field of education can link a positive experience with a teacher who made a difference in their lives. However, not all learners have this experience. Did you know strong teacher-student relationships are tied to a student's sense of belonging at school? According to the National Association of Secondary Principals, between 40 and 56% of high school students and 49 and 67% of middle school students said that they feel like they belong in their schools. Sadly, the reverse of this statistic means around half of all high school and middle school students screened by this organization feel disconnected from their school. That means 1 out of every 2 middle school and high school students feel disconnected from their school. One of the most straightforward solutions to this problem is encouraging strong teacher-student relationships. Introduction. As a former Army brat, I was one of those kids who teachers failed to connect with because I was an inconvenience to them. I struggled in school, especially in math. Frequently, I entered teachers' classrooms at inconvenient times of the year with significant educational gaps. I think back to my educational journey and wonder if only my teachers had taken time to connect with me, would I have been more successful in school? Would I still have become a teacher? This experience as a learner is why, as an educator, I spend so much time building solid teacher-student relationships through caring attachments with all learners in my classroom. My research question. How do my life experiences and background influence how I build relationships with my students and approach my students with a caring theory approach? Significance of study. The goal of this self-study is to dive deeper into myself to gain insight into how my past experiences as a student and a learner have shaped me into the educator I am today. This study is important because studies show how building strong teacher-student relationship improves student engagement, academic success, raise student attendance, and improves overall students' behavior in school. The why. I want to be able to use this study of myself to help me connect with all students in my classroom by building strong teacher-student relationships. Participant. Due to this study being a self-career study, the leading participant is me. Reflecting on how you've become the educator you are today can be a vulnerable and complicated process. Intersectional lens of Tracy. I'm a white woman who was raised all over the world, from Pennsylvania to Texas to Germany to Georgia. Early in life, my mother was a single mother due to my biological father being incarcerated when I was 7 years old. At that time in life, my family was homeless and displaced, living in my grandparents' attic. My mother met and married a military man who later adopted me, and I became an Army brat. Methodology. This self-study is a career study in which I dive deeply into who Tracy Chavis is as an educator and what other educators can learn from my experiences. Since I'm sharing authentic aspects of myself in this study would be categorized as a narrative, qualitative self-study. Narrative inquiry is a form of qualitative research in which the stories themselves become raw data. For this study, I spent time finding common themes. They are how my upbringing helps me connect with my students and parents, how the lack of teacher-student relationship with a specific teacher in high school inspires me to build strong teacher-student relationships, and how my pedagogy has threads of caring theory as it pertains to how I approach my students. Description of data. As I was researching myself, I found some artifacts to help me tell my story. First is a map of my grandparents' attic, where my family lived when we were homeless and displaced. I included a chart of my educational journey from kindergarten to college. I included a picture of myself and counter narratives, dear diary entries from my teenage perspective. Lastly, I included an email and a letter from previous students that show how I build relationships and have lasting effects on them. I included a map of my grandparents' attic. If you look at the map, you will see that 7 people lived in this attic. My brother and 3 of my cousins and myself slept in 4 twin beds smushed together to make a giant bed. My mother and my aunt also lived in the attic. When I was a kid, I thought this was a fun experience, all of us living together. I never really understood the harsh realities of what was going on in our lives. I included a map of my educational journey from kindergarten to college. In 6th grade, I remember having a teacher who told the class she had been to 9 different schools. She told the class if any of us had beat her, she would buy us a pair of shoes. I wish I would be able to find this teacher today. From kindergarten to college, I attended in total 14 different schools. I included a picture of my teenage self when we moved to Georgia. The move to Georgia was hard on me, medically. I was allergic to just about everything that grew in Georgia. It spun my asthma, and I had numerous severe asthma attacks. The solution to this, my doctor started me on weekly allergy shots. Here's where the problem began. My freshman year of high school, I started those allergy shots. Once a week, I got signed out of my 4th block class to get those shots. My 4th block class was algebra with Mr. X. Mr. X let it be known he was not happy about the fact I left his class once a week. If I had to describe Mr. X, I would say he was rude, unaccommodating, sarcastic, frustrating, and he lacked empathy for me and my situation. Mr. X made me feel dumb, unmotivated, a failure, and small in his class. My freshman year of high school, I failed Algebra 1. This was not a surprise to me. All year long, Mr. X told me I was not going to pass his algebra class. Going into my sophomore year, I had Mrs. J for Algebra 1. Mrs. J was the complete opposite of Mr. X. She was caring, helpful, understanding, empathetic about my situation, and compassionate. Ms. J made me feel smart, motivated, successful, and empowered, and I'm proud to say I passed algebra my 2nd time with an A. This experience with Mr. X and Mrs. J is why I became a teacher. It is why I value building strong teacher-student relationships, because I know personally the power of strong teacher-student relationships. In this self-study, I included counter-narratives, dear diary entries from the perspective of my teenage self. I was able to put myself back in the shoes of my teenage self when I was in Mr. X's class and Ms. J's class. I was able to re-feel and relive those experiences, both positive and negative, as I was researching myself for this self-study. In this self-study, I included an email and a letter from 2 previous students. Both of these students expressed the fact how I made a difference in their life, and that me taking time to build a relationship made a lasting effect on them. As an educator, I hold both the email and letter close to my heart. Data analysis. To analyze the data of my self-career, I had to look at the educator I am today. I had to determine what aspects of my past and present make me this teacher. Looking inward at your past and how it affects your present and future is a vulnerable process. I laid out my artifacts in order, like a timeline of how I developed into the person I am today. Looking at my artifacts as a collection, I noticed some common threads running through each of them. These themes are self-awareness of how my past affects my present and future, the importance of building teacher-student relationships, and a caring theory approach to my students. By taking this retrospective look into my younger self led me to focus on the kind of teacher I am today. In the walls of my classroom and around my school, I take the time to build relationships with students. It's my personal belief every student needs to have an adult person at school who they know cares for them. I wanted to look at my current teaching practices to see if this is evident in my classroom. I pulled up the last 4 years' TEAC evaluations completed by my school administrators. I read through the 10 state standards teachers are rated on in Georgia. The standard that focuses on classroom environment is Standard 7, Learning Environment. This standard centers around the teacher building positive learning environment. I read through my school administrator's comments on Standard 7 over the last 4 years. I took this data and completed a data analysis. I first looked at TEAC's evaluations with scores of level 4, the highest you can get, and comments from my school administrators. Then I took those evaluations and I separated them into a learning environment comment chart. I read through the comments by my school administrators for Standard 7 Positive Learning Environment. Some of them are, does an exceptional job of building rapport with students. Students feel safe in my classroom without the fear of ridicule. Provides an orderly environment, gives praise, uses a positive teacher tone, and so much more. After I read through the comments on my TEKS evaluation for Standard 7, I separated the comments my school administrators made, some into the theme of building relationships and others into the theme of the caring theory. As I look through my TEKS evaluation, I can clearly see how I build relationships with my students and how I approach my students with a caring approach. Through my research, I found 3 key findings. The first one is the ability to connect with students and parents. Due to my past life experiences, I can emphasize with my students and parents going through things. Have an awareness that things happen outside of my classroom. This helps me connect with them on a deeper level. I can provide support during difficult situations, and I let my students and parents know that I care for them. Another key finding is that I understand the need for building strong relationships. My past experience helped me understand the need for strong teacher-student relationships. I'm aware of the fact that all students need someone to care for them. My third key finding is there's a need for a caring approach. Students need to know that an adult person cares for them at school. I aim to teach my students how to care for others through modeling. I'm aware if I teach my students how to care for others, this approach will transfer over in how they care for others. I build a level of trust between teachers and students. The caring theory approach helps build strong teacher-student relationships. Implications. I had hurdles to overcome as a child. I was homeless and displaced. I come from a single mother and an incarcerated father. I was an adopted child and later became a military child. I developed into an understanding teacher. I can relate to my parents and my students. I understand the struggle, and I acknowledge life happens outside of my classroom. Past experience with an uncaring teacher molded me into a caring teacher. It has taught me the power of words and understanding the importance of a caring approach in building relationships. Relationships with a caring approach. I take time to get to know my students and build trust. Limitations of study. First one was hesitation. Going into career study, I hesitated because I'm an Army brat. My family moved every few years. Therefore, many artifacts about my educational journey have been disposed or lost of along the way. Second one was creation. I had to create other ways to illustrate my past. I selected to use counter-narratives using diary entries from the point of view of my teenage self. When writing these counter-narratives, I could easily put myself back into the shoes of my teenage self. Theoretic framework. Caring theory. The theoretic framework that best informs my research is Nell Nodding's caring theory. According to Noddings, caring and being cared for are a basic human need. Without establishing a caring relationship with others throughout life, one can't be a complete human. Every stage of our lives, we need to be cared for, understood, accepted, and validated. My literature review centered around 3 main topics: building relationships, caring theory, and self-career. Building relationships. When asked to describe their favorite teachers, students did not tell stories about effective curricula or gains they made on state tests. Students recount teachers who cared, teachers who inspired, teachers who expected more. Benefits of building strong teacher-student relationships. Some of them are less likely to drop out of school, improved attendance, perform better academically, better behavior, less discipline issues, and students who like school more. How to build relationships with students. Teachers have to have motivation and beliefs, self-efficacy. They have to be authentic. They have to show appropriate behaviors. They have to have pedagogical strategies. Caring theory. There are 4 main aspects of caring theory. They are cultivating caring students, cultivating caring teachers, teaching caring topics, and emphasizing the continuity of education. Students should model caring and respect throughout their relationships with their students. The teacher models care to students. This concept will transfer into a caring student. Career. Career is a conversational process in which participants thread through academic knowledge, reactivate the past, reconstruct the present, and look to the future by talking with themselves, with figures across space and time, Career understands that curriculum is a lived path as well as an object in a course of study. Curriculum is not a thing to be studied, it is a path to be lived. This presentation would be beneficial to present at the National Best Practice Conference in Dallas, Texas. This conference focuses on effective strategies to empower students academically, socially, and linguistically. Conclusion: I plan to take the information from this self-study into my future career path. I am currently at a turning point in my educational career. I have recently applied for and accepted a new teaching position within the county where I teach next school year. This position is titled Teaching as a Profession at the Liberty County College and Career Academy, LCCA. I'll be moving from the elementary to the high school level. I'll be instructing high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors. The students in my class will be taking the Teaching as a Profession pathway for graduation. In my new position, I will be able to use the knowledge I have learned during my educational journey and time in the classroom to mold these young minds into caring teachers who value the importance of building strong teacher-student relationships, because even as the high school level, I will continue to build relationships with my students and approach them from a caring theory pedagogy. If I achieve this goal, I will have a lasting legacy with these young adults who plan to go into the educational field. In some small part, my legacy will live on in their classrooms with their students.